It should be a clapping noise that we
Yes.
can
Clap, clap.
Bang your controllers together.
do.
Hey guys, I'm Evan.
Yeah, man.
We started Castle Steps about 3 years ago when the HTC Vive came out. We started in the consumer market making games for Steam. We made a horror game called The Bellows, and then a multiplayer competitive game called Krieg. And what we found is that we didn't find much success. We got a lot of users for the horror game, but that came out soon when it was kind of right when the headset came out, so we got users. There's a lot of hype at the very beginning, then it kind of died off. And the multiplayer games are definitely harder because for a thriving multiplayer game, you need a lot of active users, and VR being such a niche platform, it's hard to get those users. But people thought the game was fun, and from there we ended up getting into the location-based entertainment side. Similar to what Jeremy was saying before, we found it was a better idea than the home market because you can build shorter experiences and they provide more value, where people at home are wanting much longer and more in-depth experiences, where for the location-based side, people are saying we want it shorter, we want it easier to use, less mechanics. So from a development standpoint, it was less work to make something more polished that was actually more well received. And then from a licensing perspective, what we do now is charge monthly rather than it being a one-off purchase. You get a customer and then their recurring revenue and usually they stick with the games for a while. So you want to build up multiple people. But as Jeremy said too, there's a lot of struggle in this LB space as well. A lot of people are failing mostly because they don't know how to run a location-based entertainment business. They think, oh, I just buy some headsets, get some games, and run in location, but it is much more difficult than that. And running something in this location-based entertainment space is pretty hard. You're competing against all forms of entertainment, going to the movies, going to an escape room, a mini golf, or whatever's in your town. And people need to educate people on VR where it's still a niche space, and convincing someone to come and try VR is definitely a marketing challenge that many people aren't up to. But there are a few that are succeeding and doing well, 2-Bit Circus being one that's very well funded. I think they have millions in venture funding. But there are smaller scale ones that are still being successful. We have a partner in the Huntington Beach area who runs one of the most popular escape rooms in LA, and now he's also doing a VR business as well. I think the escape room business model is very similar to the location-based entertainment for VR business model of having single-off experiences that a group of people come in to play. How many people operate their arcades right now is more of like a net cafe model, where you come in, book some time, and play a game, which works well, but you're more selling VR as a technology, which doesn't really have lasting value. Where the growing potential, I think, is in selling content as an experience that a group of people can do together. This is similar to some of the bigger players such as The Void or Dreamscape or Sandbox, where they're having the main purpose is multiplayer and having people have a shared social experience. And we see that's where the most value is in the location-based entertainment side. So that's where we're focusing our content now, into multiplayer free roam experiences. So we have 2 games. First is LA Deadzone. It's a 4-player zombie shooter. Because it's free roam, the minimum play space is 15 by 15, but the benefit is you could have all 4 players in that space. So for a key factor for when people are running location-based entertainment is like cost per square foot. So how much money can they make per square footage? And like how much revenue per hour. So that's where the shorter experiences make more sense because it can get a higher throughput rate. And that's why we've heard from multiple of the successful people are saying they want their content 15 minutes long. Right here, the less successful people, oh, we want an hour of content, but you don't get the throughput to have the economics make sense when the experiences are that long. So we're focusing on the shorter end, multiplayer and free roam, where you could have multiple people in the same space. And we're licensing on other platforms. The main two are Springboard and Synthesis, where their main model is it's a per minute licensing, so it's based on like the usage of the game, which it works well from an arcade perspective, but from our standpoint, we weren't really making much money. So now we're doing $100 a month per user. So a single arcade could be like, if they have 4 players, $400 a month. And a lot of people use 3 because it's just on the wireless adapters for the HTC Vive is a popular solution. So we're getting like 300 to 400 per customer. And we're in places such as the Surreal Park in China. We have a place in Canada. We have places in the US and Huntington Beach. So yeah, that's what we do. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, thank you.
Well, I had one.
Yeah.
So, who are you using, or how are you getting the arcades to pay for the monthly fee? If you're not, is that still Springboard or the other things, and it's just not a per minute thing anymore? Like,
have our Steam has monthly, which we're on, but we just do direct licensing. We have our backend is called Fastspring. It's like a software as a service company where the benefit of them is they're considered the reseller. They take like 8%, which is cheaper than everybody else. Like if you're going with a big like dedicated platform, but for tax purposes, they sell it and pass it through to you, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's why we chose it. As we scale up, we'll probably go with something like Stripe, Stripe to do the back end for the licensing, but that just more logistics.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just to confirm, you don't do per minute, right? It's per headset.
We do have it on our zombie game on both Synthesis and Springboard, but it was more of an experiment just to see what we could get, and it's much more financially for us to do it monthly.
Okay, I would like to know
it is an
your
option for people.
Okay, may I get your feedback about Springboard and Synthesis? What do you think about those softwares?
As an arcade owner, they're great. They make I think running your arcade is almost necessary to have them. As a developer, it's necessary to get unless you have the contacts to get into the arcades, it's where Steam is. They're the gateway to your customers. So they have value there, but it's going directly to your customers. You'll always make more money.
Right.
But yeah, they're great platforms, and I recommend them both from both the developer or arcade side. Angela?
Thank you.
How many? How many people are on your team? Like, how many devs do you got?
We're really small. It's just 2 of us, me and my brother right now.
Oh,
and
nice.
we don't make a lot of money, but it's enough because we're so small.
That's cool.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, in terms of for your development studio, in terms of a long-term business model, what are some of the constraints or some of the things you have to do to keep that monthly revenue going? Do you have to release new games? Do you have to release updates? Do you have to acquire new customers at a certain rate? Like, what is that sort of the work that you have to do to keep the monthly revenue going? What's that work like?
we're recently switching on to it. Our plan is to release new content. If you so it's make it more of like a subscription bundle. So you pay one monthly rate and you'll get all the content, and then you just kind of stick with us to get the future content is our idea. But so it's if you have like a competitive multiplayer game, I think that scales well for just updating it. Because then the main thing is like replayability. Is like if you have a story-based experiences, their customers can't retry that, where they have to get new customers, being from the arcade side. But if you have like a competitive game, it has an inherent replayability, which is definitely more valuable, but it's harder to achieve a good multiplayer competitive game. But if you had something like that, I would say updating it would be more your idea, and then for story-based content is where we're more focused on now, is to make new content.
A follow-up for the hardware, what type of do you guys just sell the games, or do you guys sell the games and like a 3-player hardware package too? What hardware do you use?
We sell just the content.
Okay.
There's definitely more value, I would say, in selling a hardware package. You see people like Hollowgate who bundle some games and their headsets and truss in a nice package, and then they sell it for $100K, and they've sold 300 of them so far. So they're definitely doing really well. They're focusing more on the established entertainment centers, which a lot of people, whereas there's a lot of money as well, but you need a very buttoned up product to be able to sell to them, and just we're not at that stage yet. But I think definitely a route where there's a lot of money if you built the right product, but that's definitely very challenging to do.
Your 4-player game, the 2 games that you have, are they arena scale, or is it like single station over the internet?
They're arena scale in the sense of, I mean, we have multiple sizes, but it's 15 by 15 is the smallest, and then it goes up to 30 by 30. So I didn't answer the previous question, but we go with the hardware we mostly use is HTC 5s.
Okay.
Just for like the Steam VR platform. Mostly because that's just what the customers have.
Yeah.
But I'm very bullish on the Oculus Quest.
Mm-hmm.
I think the affordability and how the tracking and all that, it scales very well. So we would have to, and then if you make a game for the Quest, it scales up, as in you can sell it to it will work on any hardware. Right. If you make something for the Vive and a wireless adapter, it's not going to work on a Quest inherently. People might expect more graphics-wise if you have something on the Quest, or if it's made for the Quest and then you're showing it on the Vive. But if you make something for the Quest, it'll just work on the Vive. So that's where we see the future of what we're going to do. But right now, the stuff's built for the Steam VR.
And my last question, I promise.
Yeah,
since you're developing your own content and distributing it to your own partners, and you have that established relationship, do you have plans on like onboarding more content so that you can distribute more content in addition to your own games, or is that?
It's from a logistics standpoint, it would be harder to. If we had something like a per play model, I think it would be easier. Like to track how much is played and to split revenue would be easier. But how we do it now, it's just because it's only 2 of us, it's a much smaller, it's whatever's the easiest logistically is what we're going with at the moment. And we don't really have enough of customers, I think, to make it make sense where someone like Springboard or Synthesis, they have that. But
cool. Thanks.
When we scale up, maybe down the line, but not right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
I think that's it.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Evan.
Oh, no problem.